really pleased to be here at the National Museum of Mexican Art, and especially on a day when it's important for us to celebrate Latino heritage and to stand up for the community that it represents. So happy to take any questions from members of the media.
Governor Tom Homan was asked about racial profiling today. He said that ICE is not racially profiling. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? And also, we've learned that ICE now has stations at courthouses in Illinois so that they can process suspects, sort of take them out of the criminal justice system since we're not cooperating here in Illinois with ICE. Can you just react to the impact that might be having on our court system?
Well, Tom Homan has long ago acknowledged that he was racially profiling. As a leader of ICE, as somebody who's now advising the president on this new strategy, attacking our Latino communities, we know that that Supreme Court decision yesterday that frankly takes away rights from people across the United States is something that Tom Homan cheers. So I just want to be clear, we don't appreciate and frankly push back on and will always fight what Tom Homan and what the Supreme Court decision represents.
In the courthouses, ICE stations at courthouses?
Look, remember that we're talking about people who have been here for many years in this country who are literally seeking to follow legal procedures so that they can stay in this country. To attack them in the very place where they are trying to follow the law seems to me like the world is upside down when this is what Donald Trump is promoting. ICE sitting outside of courthouses that people are showing up to voluntarily. These are not people running away from authority. These are people seeking authority to stay in this country.
So, Governor, do you have Senator John DeWitt said that the state should use the $200 million a year in interest on the road fund to provide ongoing mass transit funding. He also said he wants to use interest earned on the rainy day fund and interest earned in the future on the rainy day fund to fund mass transit. What's your take on that?
Well, he's a little late to the table, if you ask me, if that's a recent proposal, and all I can say is that we're looking at all of the potential revenue sources in order for us to make sure we fund a world-class transit system in the state of Illinois.
Governor, what did you hear from the advocacy groups you were meeting with today? What did you hear from them? What concerns were they expressing to you? And what are you able to do to sort of work with them and help?
Well, today I was in Brighton Park with the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, also with ICER, which represents really the breadth of immigration-associated organizations in the state of Illinois, listening to them, and we were talking about how we can protect our communities better. They are amazing at making sure that people know their rights in this environment in which people's rights are under attack. So I was pleased to listen to them, to spend time with them, and I will say people are frankly afraid. In our communities, they're afraid to come out of their homes, they're afraid to go shopping, they're afraid to take their own children to school because they have mixed status households. Some are U.S. citizens, some are people who have legal status in this country but are not citizens, and there are undocumented people. And we are trying to protect all the residents of the state of Illinois. These are people who, people talk about, Donald Trump likes to talk about immigrants as criminals. These are not criminals. These are people who are genuinely here in this country, holding down jobs. They've been here for 10, 20, 30 years, raising families here, paying taxes, following the law, doing the right thing. We should give them an opportunity, whether it's when they go to the courthouse to try to get their citizenship or their legal status improved, or taking their kids to school. We should be protecting them in all those endeavors. Shia.
I understand that you might have had a conversation with Hakeem Jeffries about redistricting. I'm wondering if Illinois might consider any plan to redistrict before 2026?
Well, I talked to Hakeem Jeffries somewhat frequently. No, I did not have a specific conversation recently about redistricting, and I have pledged to him that I'll do everything I can to make sure that Democrats win the Congress in 2026. It's one of the reasons that you've seen me stand up in places outside of Illinois often, campaigning for people, helping state parties raise money, because we have got to win in 2026 in order to stop the madness coming out of the White House. Chris.
Where are we in this story right now? Greg Bovino reportedly on the ground here, ICE saying that they're here with that picture of the Willis Tower in the background, but we don't have the National Guard here. In your head, where are we on the timeline in the big picture of this?
Well, it's hard to tell, Chris, because as you know, Donald Trump wakes up, and depending upon which side of the bed he wakes up on, or what his mood is, or maybe what he had to drink the night before, we don't know exactly what's going to come out of his mouth and what he's going to tell people to do. Here's what we do know. ICE is somewhere on the ground here. They already have been effectuating their plans. We have not seen the bulk of those ICE agents yet in communities, but we have seen some. And we know that they are gathering steam, and they have the vehicles. We know they have about 100 vehicles that they are planning to utilize. We know that they're planning more than 200 agents on the ground, and it's not my understanding yet that Greg Bovino is here. But he has been on his way, and he is in charge of the efforts here in Illinois. And I think his history, what he posts online, which everybody should go take a look at, is just evidence that they have terrible plans for the communities of Illinois. In fact, Tom Homan has basically said that they're going to be working double hard here in a way that they maybe didn't in Los Angeles. So I'm worried for our communities. Remember, this is bad for the state of Illinois. This is bad for the economy of the state of Illinois. You saw the business community standing with me when I was pushing back on the idea of bringing troops into Illinois that Donald Trump has. And as far as I'm concerned, the ICE needs to take it down about 3 notches. And we need Tom Homan to focus on something other than his failures in Illinois. One of the reasons that he's been so unsuccessful is people know their rights here. They're learning their rights. We have great organizations on the ground, and they're doing exactly what they should be doing, following the law.
Regarding the Supreme Court's and the racial profiling basically being allowed, at the state level, what can we do? Because we got reports of a flower shop, someone waiting at a bus stop, someone just walking down the street that ICE basically targeted. Like, what is the state doing? What can the state do concrete-wise to kind of like head off what the Supreme Court saying that racial profiling is functionally okay?
Well, as you know, that's federal law, and so as you know, there is the supremacy clause that essentially says federal law trumps state law. Period. End of sentence. And so what we can do is make sure that people know their rights and that they're staying out of the way. That's the best thing that we can do. I mean, as we're also taking them to court if they break the law in the state of Illinois, and that it's not in contravention of federal law. And so, we're frankly standing up and speaking out and ready to take them to court and do everything that we can to protect the people who live here from what Donald Trump is trying to do, which is to disrupt the country, not because he's going after criminals, but because he has a nefarious plan, frankly, to bring military into cities so that ultimately in the 2026 election, people will be normalized to the idea of militarization during the next election so that he can affect the outcome of that election.
Governor,
Yeah,
anything else
Olivia.
you can say about like the location that ICE agents have been concentrated, or any other like details that you're hearing from the community? And my colleague talked to some activists at the Broadview Center who said that one thing that they would really like to see is immigration attorneys at that center. Is that something the state can help with?
So we don't have the enough immigration attorneys that we could provide them. We do fund organizations that have immigration attorneys, and we do encourage them to be at the right places where they can defend people. And so that's certainly part of what we're trying to effectuate. But yeah, I mean, what's happening across Chicago and Chicagoland right now is something that I think I find abhorrent. I have said for some time that going after people who have committed a crime and have not been caught committing that crime, have not been jailed and tried, is certainly an appropriate thing for civilian law enforcement. I also want to be clear that if we catch somebody, we are going to prosecute them. This is if they're a criminal. We'll prosecute them in the state of Illinois, and they will be imprisoned in the state of Illinois. Because if you deport them and they're not imprisoned, they will have committed a crime and they will not have suffered any consequence for that. Simply that they will have been removed from the United States. So we're doing everything that we can to fight crime, and that's our job. It's the federal law enforcement's job to help us to fight crime on the ground, and Donald Trump has refused to provide for us more FBI, more DEA, more ATF, and that would help us to fight gangs and guns and drugs.
Last question.
With the National Coast Guard.
Multiple times, he would like for you to call and ask for help. Have you thought of calling just to discuss the situation, or have you tried to call?
So we've made clear, I've made very clear, I think all of you have heard me say, that there are ways that he can help us. I just named one of them. We would love to have more help from ATF and FBI and DEA. Well, let me be clear that if I pick up the phone and call Donald Trump, that will become part of a case in court that I somehow was calling him for help. And therefore, it will become predicate to him sending military troops into the state of Illinois. If I called him, I would say exactly what I have said to all of you. By the way, he hasn't called me either. And he doesn't seem to want to talk directly to me. He just wants to talk to television cameras and berate the people of Chicago and berate the people of Illinois and attack the city of Chicago. And I reject that entirely, and it doesn't deserve any response except the one that I have given, which is, this is no joke. Donald Trump is doing something that's not normal, and we should not accept it in this country. It's un-American, it's anti-American what Donald Trump is doing. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.